Hello, welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to tell an incredible and emotional story that will touch your heart. It's the story of how a hero dog saved a child's life and brought together two people that fate had separated. If you love inspiring and overcoming stories, you can't miss this one. Take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any content like this. And let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? Come on. Get ready for an exciting adventure filled with loyalty and emotion. What would life be like if a simple moment of curiosity could transform everything? On a night that seemed like just another in the vibrant city of Austin, Texas, a little baby named Ethan, only 1 year and 8 months old, wakes up in his crib. The curiosity that has always accompanied him pushes him to get up and, without his parents noticing, he escapes through the slightly open door of the house. With unsteady steps, Ethan heads toward the busy South Congress Avenue, where cars rush by, not stopping even in the early morning hours. What could have been an impending tragedy soon transforms into a story of courage and loyalty. Buddy, a caramel-colored mutt, is Ethan's protector. Rescued from the streets, he was not just a pet, but a loyal friend who had learned to take care of himself amid adversity. When Buddy sees Ethan moving toward danger, he doesn't hesitate. With bravery, the dog positions himself beside the baby, trying to steer him away from the busy street. The connection between them is instant and profound, a friendship that transcends words and explanations. Meanwhile, Officer Ryan Thompson, a dedicated man committed to the safety of his community, is finishing his patrol, unaware that his life is about to change as well. An urgent call interrupts his routine. A child has been spotted alone on one of the busiest avenues in Austin. Ryan's heart races as he runs to the scene, not knowing that what he will find there will change his destiny forever. Upon arrival, he witnesses a touching and unusual scene. Buddy is doing everything he can to protect Ethan, preventing the little one from getting close to the road. However, the dog, shaped by his traumatic experiences, does not easily trust strangers. Ryan realizes that to help the baby, he will need to earn Buddy's trust. This moment of tension reveals the dog's unwavering loyalty and creates an emotional connection that resonates with everyone witnessing the scene. The twist happens when Ryan, after ensuring Ethan's safety, begins to look for the child's family. When he rings the bell of a nearby house, the door opens to reveal Chris, an old childhood friend whom Ryan hasn't seen in decades. The surprise is immense, and the emotion of the reunion is palpable. Chris, stunned to see his son in Ryan's arms, relives memories of times when they were inseparable, exploring the streets of Austin together. This unexpected meeting makes them reflect on how time and circumstances can separate people, but also on the power of life to reunite what has been lost. For Chris and his family, Buddy is not just a dog. He is a hero who saved their child and reunited two souls that fate had kept apart. For Ryan, that night represented much more than a simple rescue. It was an opportunity to reconnect with his past and recognize that, even in the most unexpected situations, life always offers chances for reunion and renewal. Buddy's loyalty, the love between friends, and the reunion of families are themes that echo throughout the story, showing that, in moments of crisis, what really matters is the connection we have with one another and the courage to fight for those we love. The night Ethan ran away from home became a turning point not only for him, but also for Buddy and Ryan. As the dog tried to keep the little boy away from the busy avenue, his protective instincts battled against the fear that overwhelmed him. Buddy knew he couldn't trust strangers, but Ethan's innocent gaze, those bright, curious, and joyful eyes, made him feel that he needed to do something, even if it meant risking his own safety. Ryan, for his part, had seen many things in his career, but nothing prepared him for the image unfolding before him. As he approached, he noticed the tremor in Buddy's paws, which were on guard but also seemed hesitant. The officer didn't want to scare the dog, as he understood that Buddy was all Ethan had at that moment. The city, with its bright lights and incessant sounds, could be a hostile place, and Ryan needed to act cautiously. When he crouched down and began to speak in a soft tone, asking Buddy to come closer. The situation became more tense. The dog looked at Ryan, assessing him. The officer realized that every movement he made needed to be deliberate and gentle. He had to earn Buddy's trust before he could reach Ethan. The emotional challenge weighed on Ryan. He didn't want to fail, didn't want anything to happen to the little boy. Meanwhile, in the back of his mind, Ryan began to reflect on his own challenges. Long ago, he had left friends behind in pursuit of a career that consumed him. Now, amid a situation that could have ended in tragedy, he felt further away than ever from his initial purpose. The life he had built felt empty compared to the bonds he once had. This search for connection, which had been so strong in his youth, now manifested in the need to protect that baby and his loyal dog. As the minutes dragged on, the tension increased. Buddy, realizing Ryan was not a threat, began to relax a little but still remained by Ethan's side, as if ready to defend him at all costs. Ryan saw this as an opportunity. He started talking to Ethan, trying to engage him in conversation. "Hey, little guy, are you okay? We're just here to help you and your friend. Don't worry." Ryan's soft voice aimed to calm both the baby and the dog. However, the challenge was far from over. By this point, many drivers had begun to stop, and a few people were gathering, watching the scene. Ryan knew he needed to act quickly, but he also wanted to avoid turning the situation into a spectacle. He remembered a trick he used to employ with difficult dogs. Carefully, he stepped back a little and pulled out from his backpack the toy he always carried, a small teddy bear. "Look what I brought," he said, showing the toy, hoping to distract Ethan and Buddy. Buddy's reaction was immediate. The dog, who had been on alert, turned toward the toy. Ryan realized this was his chance. With slow movements, he moved a bit closer, always keeping his gaze on Buddy. "It's just a teddy bear, Buddy. Look, it's soft and friendly. You can even play with it." Ryan spoke, trying to create a bond with the dog. But what Ryan didn't know was that Buddy had a past filled with betrayals. He had been abandoned by people he once considered friends, and that distrust still haunted him. The dog hesitated, his instincts battling against the need to protect the baby. Ryan felt a pang of frustration, but he also understood that he couldn't rush the process. He needed to be patient. The crowd around them began to murmur, some commenting on the situation, others already pulling out their phones to capture the moment. The pressure mounted, and Ryan realized that time was running out. The officer, despite the difficulties, decided he could not give up. He remembered lessons he had learned throughout his life, that persistence was key, and that in times of crisis, every small step could make a difference. The emotional tension grew as Ryan continued to talk to Buddy, trying to establish a connection. The dog, although hesitant, began to slowly approach the toy. Each movement was a test of patience and inner strength, both for Ryan and for Buddy. Ethan's future depended on that delicate interaction. Ryan was determined not to fail, even as doubt and fear threatened to overwhelm him. The struggle for the little boy's safety and for the dog's trust became an emotional battle, testing not only his courage, but also his own understanding of friendship, loyalty, and redemption. The tension in the air was palpable. Ryan knew that every second counted, and the pressure from the crowd made him even more anxious. He could feel the curious stares from people, and the growing murmurs became a distraction, almost a source of stress. He needed to focus. He concentrated on Buddy and Ethan, trying to ignore what was happening around him. The dog was still hesitant, and the little boy seemed increasingly restless. Ethan, at just 5 years old, looked at Buddy and Ryan with a mix of curiosity and fear. He didn't fully understand the situation but felt the tension in the air. His small hands nervously gripped one of the dog's ears, as if seeking comfort. Ethan's innocence was a reminder of what was at stake. Ryan realized that if he couldn't calm the boy and the dog, the situation could spiral out of control. Buddy, for his part, was in an internal conflict. The instinct to protect Ethan was strong, but the scars of the past prevented him from trusting strangers. He remembered moments when he had been betrayed, abandoned by those he once considered friends. Distrust paralyzed him, and he wondered if Ryan was just another person who could hurt his little charge. Ethan's anxious gaze, searching for safety, only heightened Buddy's anxiety. Ryan understood that to gain Buddy's trust, he needed to do more than just show the teddy bear. He needed to expose himself, to be vulnerable. With a conscious effort, he sat down on the ground, at the same level as Ethan and Buddy. This made the crowd seem less threatening, as if he was creating a safe space just for them. "You know, I also have a friend who is a dog. He's big and fluffy, and I love him very much. He protects me when I'm sad." He spoke softly, trying to establish an emotional connection. At that moment, something curious happened. Buddy looked at Ethan, then looked at Ryan. The dog seemed to be assessing the sincerity in the officer's words. Ryan anxiously hoped that this connection could be what he needed to move forward. However, the tension did not lessen. A car sped down the nearby avenue, and Buddy shrank back, pulling Ethan closer to him. The dog's reaction made Ryan's heart race. He knew he needed to act quickly. Meanwhile, the crowd began to stir. Some people started taking pictures, while others spoke loudly, expressing concern or curiosity. The external commotion was affecting Ethan, who began to cry. The sound of the boy's sobs pierced Ryan's heart. He was losing the battle, the pressure was mounting, and the feeling of failure began to weigh on him. He remembered his own childhood, when he felt alone and powerless, and the empathy for Ethan grew. "Hey, Ethan," Ryan said with a sad smile. "Can you help me? What do you think we should do with the teddy bear? Do you want to hold it while we take care of Buddy?" The idea was to try to give the boy a sense of control, but in truth, Ryan was just trying to find a way to calm him down. Ethan looked at the teddy bear, then at Buddy, and tears began to stream down his face. The situation was becoming untenable. Buddy, realizing that Ethan was in emotional danger, began to move. He approached Ryan but still maintained a defensive posture. The dog was willing to listen, but there was still a barrier of distrust. Ryan seized the opportunity and extended the teddy bear, placing it between himself and the dog. "Buddy, look, see how gentle he is. He just wants to be a friend." He spoke in the softest voice he could muster. At that instant, the crowd became a distant noise. Ryan was so focused on Buddy and Ethan that he completely forgot about what was happening around him. The connection he was seeking was slowly forming, but with each passing second, the pressure increased. The fear of failure loomed over him, and he knew he needed to find a way to turn this situation into a victory. The desire to protect those two innocent souls became a heavy emotional burden, but Ryan was determined not to give up. Ethan, still in tears, looked at the teddy bear, then at Buddy. The little boy finally began to see what Ryan was trying to do. He reached out, and with a hesitant movement, took the toy. The dog, realizing that the boy was calming down, took a step forward. The tension began to slowly dissipate, but Ryan knew there was still a long way to go. Now he needed to not only gain Buddy's trust, but also show Ethan that he was there to protect him. As the emotional struggle continued, Ryan realized that he was at a crucial point in his life. The need to connect, to make a difference, had never been clearer. He was not just fighting for Ethan and Buddy. He was fighting against his own fears and insecurities. And every little progress, every look of trust became a victory not only for the boy and the dog, but also for himself. The journey was just beginning. The situation was at a critical point. Ryan watched Ethan's small hand holding the teddy bear as Buddy slowly approached. The dog, who had seemed so distant before, was now willing to listen, but the tension still hung in the air like a thread about to snap. As Buddy took another step, the crowd around them seemed to stir again. The noise of conversations grew, and a group of people began to approach, drawn by the scene unfolding. It was at that moment that a loud voice cut through the air. "Hey, what's going on here?" A sturdy man with an authoritative expression moved toward Ryan, his eyes filled with suspicion. "You're putting that boy in danger. What are you doing with the dog?" Ryan felt his heart race. The last thing he needed was more tension. He raised his hands, trying to convey calm. "It's okay. I'm just trying to help. Buddy just needs a little time and love." But the pressure was mounting. The man didn't seem convinced and began to move closer, leaving Ryan on alert. Buddy reacted immediately upon seeing the stranger approach. The dog positioned himself in front of Ethan, growling protectively. The scene was intense. A crying boy, a defensive dog, and a police officer trying to intervene. The emotional pressure Ryan felt intensified, and he realized the situation was about to become even more complicated. Ethan, seeing Buddy's reaction, began to cry even harder, tears streaming down his face. "Buddy, no, he's not going to hurt us." The boy tried to calm the dog, but the agitation was too much. Ryan felt a wave of despair. He not only had to deal with Buddy and Ethan, but now he was facing an unexpected challenge. The crowd, which had previously been just a backdrop, was now becoming a crucial factor. Voices mixed in a cacophony of concern and criticism, and a sense of claustrophobia took hold of Ryan. He remembered his own experiences, moments when he had felt powerless, and realized he was reliving his deepest fears. The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. He was not just fighting to save the boy and the dog, but he was also confronting his own insecurities. What was at stake was not just Ethan and Buddy's safety. It was his own ability to face challenges, to be a protector, someone to be trusted. "Buddy, please," Ryan said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. "I know you're scared, but I'm here to help. No one is going to hurt you or Ethan. I promise." The dog looked into Ryan's eyes, and in that moment, something changed. The growling began to subside, but the trust was still not completely there. Buddy's expression was one of doubt, and Ryan knew he needed to do something more. He turned to the crowd, his voice rising above the disordered voices. "Guys, I need you. Instead of judging, let's help. If we all show that we're here to support, maybe Buddy will see there's no reason to be afraid." The crowd hesitated, but some people began to step back, giving space, while others showed encouraging smiles. The tension slowly began to dissipate, and Ryan felt the weight on his chest start to lift. Looking back at Ethan, he saw the boy trying to be strong, but the internal struggle was evident. "Ethan, you're very brave," Ryan praised. "You can help Buddy feel safe. Can you tell me what he needs?" The boy, his eyes still shining with tears, took a deep breath. "He just needs to know we're together," Ethan replied, his voice trembling but determined. Ryan smiled, feeling the connection he had been seeking was finally forming. Buddy, realizing that Ethan was by his side and that Ryan was not a threat, took another step forward. The trust was still fragile, but the change was underway. Ryan saw that even though he had to face his own demons, he was making progress. The crucial lesson he was learning was that sometimes strength comes from vulnerability, from the willingness to open up and ask for help, not just for oneself, but for those in need. The path ahead was still uncertain, but Ryan was determined. He had found a new understanding of what it meant to be a protector, and as the bond between them grew stronger, he knew he was ready to face any challenges that arose. The journey of personal overcoming was not only about rescuing Buddy and Ethan, but also about finding his own strengths and learning to trust again. Ryan felt a wave of relief when Buddy stepped forward, but he couldn't relax completely. The dog's gaze was still cautious, and the crowd around them seemed to be in a state of anticipation. He knew he had only a few minutes to change the dynamic of the situation. What had happened in the last few hours was not just a test for Buddy and Ethan. It was a challenge that forced Ryan to confront his own truths. With a deep sigh, he crouched down to Ethan's level. "Let's show Buddy that we're together, okay? You can call his name. That might help him understand that we're friends." The boy nodded, wiping his tears with the sleeve of his shirt. "Buddy, come here, Buddy," Ethan said, his voice now more steady. Ryan watched as the dog hesitated for a moment, but upon hearing Ethan's calm tone, He seemed to relax a little. Ryan turned back to the crowd. If you can, help create a safe space. Stay calm and speak softly. Some people began to step back, while others echoed Ryan's words, trying to create an atmosphere of safety. But even with the crowd doing their part, Ryan felt that something deeper was happening inside him. He had always seen himself as someone who needed to be in control, someone who should be strong for others. However, in that moment he realized that his strength did not come from the absence of fear, but from the ability to open up and allow others to come close. This was a new truth he was learning to accept. Buddy, increasingly confused, looked at Ethan and then at Ryan. The dog was still nervous, but the tension in his body began to ease. A small wag of his tail indicated that trust was forming. Ryan smiled, encouraging Ethan. Try to touch him, but do it slowly. The boy extended his hand and Buddy hesitated, but seeing that Ethan wasn't moving quickly, the dog stepped a little closer. Ryan held his breath, watching every movement. When Ethan finally made contact, gently stroking Buddy's fur, the dog closed his eyes as if absorbing the kindness. It was a small step, but for Ryan, it felt like a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. However, as the tension eased, another concern began to arise. Ryan remembered that there was still a group of people around, and social pressure never fully disappeared. He looked at the burly man who was still there, watching intently. Ryan knew he would need to deal with him at some point, and the thought of having to justify his actions made him feel vulnerable again. The crowd began to slowly disperse, but the man was still lurking. Ryan decided he couldn't ignore him. He stood up and approached, feeling his nervousness grow again. Sorry if I bothered you, Ryan began, trying to keep calm in his voice. I just wanted to help. Buddy and Ethan were in a tough situation, and I didn't want them to get hurt. The man looked at Ryan, assessing him. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Dogs can be unpredictable, especially when they're scared. The words came out as a challenge, and Ryan felt his confidence waver. He took a deep breath, remembering what he had learned. I understand what you're saying, Ryan replied, trying to maintain his composure. But sometimes, fear can be overcome with kindness and patience. Buddy isn't a monster. He just needs love and understanding. The man seemed reluctant, but something in his expression began to change. Ryan realized he had planted a seed of doubt in his mind. As he stepped away, he turned to Ethan and Buddy, who were now sitting together, a moment of calm between them. Ryan sat down next to them, watching how the boy gently stroked the dog, both appearing more relaxed. You did a great job, Ethan, Ryan said, feeling lighter. Buddy seems to be feeling better. The boy smiled, his cheeks still a bit red, but now with a glimmer of happiness in his eyes. He's my friend, Ethan replied as Buddy nestled closer to him. Ryan understood that the bond forming there was more than friendship. It was a bond of trust that could heal wounds. As the situation seemed to reach a point of calm, Ryan knew there was still much to face, not just with Buddy and Ethan, but also with his own insecurities. He needed to learn to trust himself and his ability to be a protector. The journey was just beginning, but he finally felt ready to face it, one step at a time. Ryan watched the moment of connection between Ethan and Buddy with a mix of relief and hope. Their interactions were delicate but full of meaning. The dog, once so restless, now allowed himself to be petted, while the boy, with a shy smile, seemed to have found a new purpose. This simple yet powerful scene made Ryan reflect on his own internal struggles. He remembered times when he felt lost and unable to cope with what life threw at him. There were moments when insecurity overwhelmed him, making him hesitate to make decisions, even the simplest ones. The weight of the expectations he imposed on himself was crushing. But now, seeing the courage Ethan showed in approaching Buddy, Ryan began to realize that he could learn from the boy. Strength was not only about standing firm, but also about allowing oneself to be vulnerable. As the crowd dispersed, Ryan decided it was time to confront the man who was still watching him. He approached, his heart racing but determined not to let fear paralyze him. He said, I understand your point of view, trying to keep his voice steady. But sometimes, what we need is a little compassion. Buddy is not a danger. He is just a dog that has been through a lot. The man stared at him, and Ryan felt he was about to be challenged again. But instead of backing down, he stood firm, reminding himself that true strength comes from standing up for what you believe in. And in that moment, he believed that every creature, whether a dog or a person, deserves understanding and love. After a brief silence, the man relaxed a bit. Maybe you are right, he said, the tension in his face easing. I just wanted to protect the people around me. Ryan saw that there was a crack, an opportunity to change the situation. And you are doing that, just like me. You care. We just need to find a way to do this together. Ryan stepped away, feeling a little lighter. He had challenged his own insecurity and also helped someone see things differently. Returning to where Ethan and Buddy were, he noticed that the boy seemed more confident, as if the act of petting the dog had also strengthened his own self-esteem. With a smile, Ryan sat down next to them. Would you mind helping me with Buddy one more time? He asked Ethan. The boy looked surprised but soon nodded, his eyes shining with the new responsibility. Sure, what do I do? Ryan suggested that they teach Buddy some simple commands together. Let's show him that we are friends and that we can have fun together. As they played and trained, Ryan felt a transformation within himself. Through love and patience, he was learning to trust his own instincts. He didn't need to be perfect. He just needed to be present. As the afternoon wore on, Ryan realized that success was not just about making Buddy behave or winning the crowd's trust. The true triumph was the connection he was forming with Ethan, the friendship that was blossoming between them, and the growth he was experiencing within himself. He was no longer just an observer. He was becoming part of something bigger. Ryan's journey was more than just overcoming a momentary challenge. It was a path of self-discovery and acceptance. He realized that the lessons he had learned could be applied in many areas of his life. Communication, empathy, and the courage to be vulnerable were skills he could use not only with Buddy and Ethan, but in all his interactions. When he finally said goodbye to Ethan and Buddy, Ryan felt that there was a new understanding in his heart. He was no longer the same. Through the difficulties, he had found a new purpose and a new way of seeing the world. And as he walked home, he knew he was ready to face whatever came next, one step at a time, with the certainty that true strength comes from love and connection. Ryan was about to face the most challenging moment of his journey. The day had been brightened by small triumphs, but now, as he looked at Ethan and Buddy, he felt a wave of insecurity. The boy, who had until then found comfort in the dog's presence, seemed hesitant. Ryan realized that Ethan's anxiety could be amplified by those watching from outside, and that made him uneasy. As they prepared for another interaction, a crowd began to gather, some murmuring and pointing. Ryan recognized that critical gaze. It was as if the crowd was waiting for a mistake, a slip-up that would justify their concerns. He felt his heart race. What would happen if Ethan felt pressured? What if Buddy reacted unpredictably? That pressure made him restless. But he knew he had to act. With a deep sigh, Ryan turned to Ethan. Hey, are you ready to show Buddy what you've learned? He tried to keep his tone light, but his voice trembled a bit. The boy looked at him, a mix of insecurity and determination in his gaze. I don't know, Ryan. What if he doesn't listen to me? Ryan remembered his own struggles. He had faced moments when his insecurities paralyzed him, and he understood that this was a pivotal moment for Ethan. Remember, Ethan, it's not about being perfect. What's important is to try and have fun with it. Buddy can sense your energy. If you're nervous, he might be too. Ethan nodded slowly, still hesitant, but Ryan saw a spark of courage in his eyes. They approached Buddy, who was sitting there, looking curious. Ryan crouched down next to the dog, petting his head. You can do this, Ethan. Let's show everyone that you two are a team. The crowd, noticing what was happening, began to murmur again. Ryan felt the rising tension, and decided it was time to act. "Come on, buddy. Show everyone how amazing you are." He stood up and made an animated gesture, drawing the crowd's attention. "Everyone, look, Buddy is a wonderful dog. He just needs love and patience." Ethan watched Ryan, and with a new glimmer of determination, took Buddy's leash. He positioned himself, took a deep breath, and tried to remember everything he had learned. "Buddy, sit," he said in a clear voice, but still trembling. To his relief, the dog obeyed, sitting down immediately. The crowd fell silent. A surprised hush enveloped the area. Ryan smiled, feeling his heart warm. "Great job, Ethan. Now try again." The boy seemed more confident, and with a growing smile, continued, "Buddy, stay." The tension in the air was palpable, but Buddy held steady. The crowd began to murmur in approval. But then, a dog from one of the spectators started barking loudly. Buddy's attention was diverted, and to Ethan's horror, the dog stood up, pulling on the leash. "Buddy, no!" Ethan shouted, his voice filled with despair. Ryan felt a chill in his stomach. The situation could spiral out of control quickly. However, instead of panicking, Ryan remembered everything he had learned with Ethan and Buddy. He knew he needed to act calmly and controlled. "Ethan, stay calm. Talk to him," he shouted, encouraging the boy. "Buddy trusts you." Ethan looked at Ryan, his eyes full of fear. But hearing those encouraging words, he took another deep breath. "Buddy, come here," he said, more firmly. The dog hesitated, but then, as if sensing the boy's confidence, slowly made his way back to him. The crowd was silent, watching the scene. Ryan crouched down next to Ethan and, with a smile, said, "Did you see that? You brought Buddy back? You're amazing." Ethan smiled, confidence shining back in his eyes. The boy turned to Buddy and gently petted his head. "You're a good dog, Buddy." The relief Ryan felt was indescribable. He realized that what mattered most was not the performance or the crowd's approval, but the genuine connection that was forming between Ethan and Buddy. In that moment, Ryan understood that true overcoming wasn't about avoiding mistakes, but facing them with courage and love. The crowd began to applaud. Ryan saw that the bond between them was solidifying, and the tension that had once hung in the air dissipated, giving way to a feeling of acceptance and celebration. He felt he had learned a valuable lesson about the strength that comes from vulnerability and the courage to be authentic. As the afternoon came to an end, Ryan, Ethan, and Buddy were closer than ever, and looking at the horizon, Ryan knew that this was just one of many journeys he would face. But now he was ready to tackle any challenge, with love and friendship by his side. Ryan watched the crowd applauding, a mix of relief and joy filling his heart. He felt that, in that moment, it wasn't just Ethan and Buddy who had overcome a challenge, but all of them, together. The tension that had previously surrounded them had dissipated, leaving space for a new energy, a sense of belonging and mutual support. Ethan, now with a radiant smile on his face, looked at Ryan. "You see that? I did it." He was so excited that he seemed almost unable to contain himself. The confidence that had once wavered now shone in his eyes. Ryan squatted down beside the boy and said, "You were amazing. Buddy trusts you, and you managed to bring him back. That shows you are a team." Buddy, as if he also felt the joy of the moment, wagged his tail and licked Ethan's face, making him laugh. The sound of the boy's laughter was like music to Ryan's ears. He realized that this day, which had begun with so much anxiety, was ending on a note of hope and camaraderie. As the crowd began to disperse, several people approached to congratulate Ethan. "You did a great job," said a woman with a warm smile. "Your dog is very well trained." Ethan, still radiant, began to receive compliments, which only boosted his confidence. Ryan watched with a sense of pride. He had witnessed a transformation not only in Ethan, but also in Buddy himself. The dog seemed calmer, more connected to the boy. "Are you feeling better now?" Ryan asked Ethan as they walked together toward the park exit. Yes, much better. I didn't know I could do that, the boy replied, reflecting on the experience. It was like I was in a movie, and Buddy was my adventure partner. Ryan smiled, recalling the moments of insecurity and doubt that Ethan had faced. And you are a true hero too, you know? You faced your fears and managed to connect with Buddy. That's what matters. The boy looked at the dog and, with a smile, petted his head again. Thank you, Buddy. You are the best. As they walked, Ryan thought about the impact this experience would have on Ethan's life. He could see that the boy was becoming more confident and capable of handling challenges. This wasn't just about training a dog, it was about the personal growth that was happening there. Sometimes, the things that scare us the most are the ones that help us grow, Ryan commented, reflecting aloud. And you just took a big step. Ethan nodded, thoughtful. Yes, I think so. I always thought I needed to be perfect, but now I realize it's better to try and learn from mistakes. Ryan felt a knot untie in his chest. He knew that this lesson was crucial for Ethan's development, and he was happy to be a part of that moment. When they reached the car, Ethan turned to Ryan and said, "Thank you for believing in me. I couldn't have done it without you." Ryan felt a wave of warmth and pride. You always had that strength inside you, Ethan. You just needed someone to help you see it. As they drove back home, Ryan reflected on how that day had changed their lives. He realized that the friendship that had formed between him, Ethan, and Buddy was stronger than ever. They were not just a boy and his dog. They were a team, a family. Arriving home, Ryan helped Ethan give water and some treats to Buddy. The dog seemed so happy and satisfied, as if he knew he had accomplished something important. "Let's keep training, Buddy," Ethan said with a sparkle in his eyes. "We still have a lot to learn together." Ryan smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. He realized that by supporting Ethan on his journey, he had also found a new purpose and a sense of belonging. What once seemed like a daunting task now revealed itself as an opportunity for connection, love, and growth. That day, Ryan understood that sometimes the toughest challenges bring the most valuable rewards. As the sun set, illuminating the horizon, he knew that with love and friendship, any challenge could be overcome.